Hi everyone, Graham Couch here from the Lansing State Journal, along with my Detroit Free Press colleagues Chris Solari and Shawn Windsor. That's a hell of a smile, Chris Solari. You look like a beautiful man. Absolutely. After Michigan State's 40-31 win over Indiana on this field, the final score, which probably hurt some people, had teasers in Vegas. A fumble recovered in that end zone to make the final score what it was. It was a much closer game, a game that Indiana deserved to win every bit as much as Michigan State. They played them toe-to-toe. I haven't seen anybody do this to Michigan State's defense. At least since Northwestern last year.
Yeah, that, and I can remember a game. This reminded me very similar to what Purdue did back in, I think, 2014 maybe.
That's a long time.
I know, and they came out running those bubble screens and all those little quick hitters that really caught the defensive backs and the linebackers off guard. Credit Michigan State for recovering a little bit, but man, they faced two quarterbacks here in Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix who have bright futures and really did a number on that defense.
Yeah, the players after the game, Graham and Chris, talked about scheme being an issue. They got out-schemed, they got outsmarted a little bit on the coaching end of it, but it wasn't just that. The receivers, Indiana's receivers, a couple of them in particular, were big and physical, and they held the blocks, and the quarterbacks, the smaller cornerbacks in Michigan State, had trouble getting off those blocks that led to some of those screens and sometimes even a few kind of outside running plays. I know, Indiana couldn't run the ball at the middle at all, as most teams can. But I thought there was a physical issue on the edges that we just haven't seen before, along with the scheme.
I did think the other side of that, I thought Michigan State's scheme, and I know you were kind of talking about that, Michigan State's offensive scheme was excellent in this game. And I think they only had 1 3-and-out. Brian Lewerke with big plays at big times, both with his arm and with his legs.
Yeah.
And they benefited from some tough penalty calls. And I think the same goes for Indiana on their scoring drive. They benefited from some penalties calls too.
And they didn't, Michigan State didn't have the advantages offensively they sometimes have, where the defense is just giving them the ball back and back and back. They didn't have as many opportunities. I thought there was one possession where they took could have gone for the kill. Then didn't, and that led to the final touchdown, which tied it by Indiana, and that sort of stuff,
But that's a work in progress.
Yeah, but that's a decision also in the play calling.
And I'm with you, Graham. Just for quick context, I think you're talking about the drive where they were actually benefit was a holding call in Indiana that kept that drive, a defensive holding call that kept that drive alive. They get a second chance. They get down in Indiana's territory, and they immediately go run. Maybe quarterback run on first and second down instead of trying to get in the end zone there. It was almost like they were playing for a field goal, and you could feel it, right? I mean, and that's what you're talking about. That's still, even though I like the gamble, not the gamble, but the aggressiveness at the end, by letting a kicker who struggled this year kick the field goal.
And you get a 44-yard pass. Like, you got a senior quarterback, senior receiver, do that a possession earlier. That would be my thing. Like, let Lewerke, who's feeling it, trust him. And if you're going to lose, if Lewerke throws an interception to Darrell Stewart, you live with that. You live with that.
He nearly fumbled the ball away.
Well,
it was recovered by Indiana, and they benefited from a defensive holding call.
But in the end, the minute left, they're down on the 1-yard line. They could have tried to score a touchdown. A lot of teams maybe wouldn't. You take the knee and run the clock out so you can kick the field goal. But again, with Coughlin struggling this year, he'd missed a field goal earlier this game.
Yep, he missed. There was the 5th and 6th attempts.
The one he kicked on the couple of possessions earlier to put him up from 44 yards, that barely got over. Not that this distance, it was basically an extra point, but Graham, to your point, I thought that was at least some faith on D'Antonio's.
The only other real criticism I would have of them is early on, they're up 7-0, they're driving, and there's a 3rd and 1 where they have a play, which it's a well-conceived play, and Brian Lewerke just overshoots Anthony Williams. Anthony Williams a little bit. Williams still should have caught the ball, but if he hits him in the hands, it's a touchdown. And then, so you get a physical mistake, and then you get a mental mistake after that when you run Ladarius Jefferson on this slow-developing stretch play. You can't have their margin for error isn't good enough. You can't do that stuff, because if they go up 14-0 there, I think this might be a little bit different game, and some of the angst.
I agree. Why is it again? Elijah Collins is on the bench on that play, right?
And Mark D'Antonio just said in the post-game press conference, he said we ride the hot back. Everybody knows who the hot back is. Everybody in the stadium knows who, and you saw him on one catch just step out of things. I mean, he just got a different.
He's also, I think, got to measure himself. Not knowing where the running back numbers are heading into next week and the meat of this schedule. Like, you need that kid. You need Elijah Collins to be there and be healthy and maybe not take 25-30 a game.
It's 4th and 1
at this point.
It's not just that, Chris and Graham.
But there is a physical toll that comes with being a freshman.
But it's not just that. Earlier. It's the idea of if you have an opportunity, you got to go for it. These players on this team, they're good. Brian Lewerke is a good quarterback, maybe not a great quarterback. I feel the same way about the receivers. I think you all agree. So when you have an opportunity, you're going to have to go for it. That's just how you're going to have to win with this particular
and
team.
especially coming up. So what they have next, obviously, is stretch
5 games.
And really the next 2 are nobody's going to go through a back-to-back like that on the road at Ohio State and Wisconsin. And in Columbus, you know, and look, they competed without an offense basically here last year against Ohio State for 3 quarters. So it's not like they don't believe they can go down there and do it. But you're going to have to play to win now. And look, when they've got a chip on the shoulder and they're playing from behind, those are the times that they seem to do it. It's the Indiana game that gets dicey where you sort of say,
Right.
why are you letting them play to you? That said, I also think Indiana's a better team. Indiana's going to cause some problems. I think that, you know, the fact that the Michael Penix kid did not play against Ohio State, that's a false result a little bit because he has clearly got the goods.
And he's got some good receivers on that team that can make some plays.
So I'll be curious to watch this may be one of those things, and we see it every year in college football, where Utah State a year ago, everybody goes, that was a struggle, 38-31. Utah State's like 10-2, and everybody's like, oh, wait a second, that was a pretty good win. This may wind up being a win that looks a little bit better or later in the year. For Michigan
Even
State.
Arizona State's 4-1. And beat a ranked team last night, I think, in California. So you just don't know, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll have complete coverage at freep.com, lsj.com, greenandwhite.com. Thanks for watching.